Welcome to Organic versus Paid Advertising Strategies for Small Businesses. This is your room. This is your conversation. This is your thoughts. Speaking through the microphone is your host, Favour Obasi-ike. And I'm about to tell you something that you'll probably have never heard before, but I think this is something that you definitely need to know. Welcome, Charmaine. It's going to be exciting for you because as a small business owner, you want to think about strategies. And today, I'm diving deep into strategies because this is something I believe a lot of us need to have. And we never lack too many strategies, right? We want to keep connecting, we want to put the dots together. So today, I want us to dive a little deeper into the topic. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. We're going to have a really great conversation today for an hour. And I'm super excited that we're going to have really deep insights on how you can actually improve your strategies. We're going to talk about TV today. We're going to talk about radio. And I don't mean FM, I mean podcasts. We're also going to talk about Pinterest. We're going to talk about email. Like, this is a lot of things. I'll say it again. TV. We're going to talk about podcasts. We're going to talk about email. We're going to talk about Pinterest. We're going to talk about, what's the one? Yes, news articles. And I mean like the big top article sites. We're going to talk about billboards, both digital billboards. Yeah, I won't talk about static. We'll do digital billboards because I want you to get the best experience. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me make it 7. I want to talk about, of course, how can we forget SEO? That's literally the cream de la creme. Now, as a business, there are a lot of things that you have to think about, and we're going to dive deep into this. So if you run a business and service business, or you advertising organically or paid wise, please put it in the chat and let me know, and let's connect today because there are a lot of us in the room who have never been here before. So thank you for being here, Bilal, Lois. Thanks for being here, Charmaine. Thanks for joining us again today. And we're going to really go into this topic, and I'm going to kick off with TV. Let me just kick that off the road because not everyone's going to do it. So let me just talk about it now. So I've had a conversation with a company called Vibe. Like, now I can say it because I got approved for the partnership. So it's easier for me to talk about these things. Organic advert means not spending money but advertising your business through traditional means. So we're going to go through that. Now, Vibe is a platform. Vibe.co is a platform that you can go into and run ads. So think about it now. When you're watching Netflix, Prime, watching something online, you're streaming. Welcome, Juliana. Good to have you here. When you're streaming and you start seeing ads on your your movies, your videos, right? Your films, that's because you're getting insights, right? You're getting an ad that's presented to you, and somebody else that's watching the same movie as you is getting a different type of ad in the same ad slot. So we don't think about this, right? And that's why I wanted us to really dive a little deeper into this topic today, because it's not just about advertising. Like, a lot of businesses are running ads, spending money in the wrong places, trying to figure out what works. And in my mind, I'm like, if you can just look in front of you and see the person asking you a question, and you can respond back with an answer that is helping them get to their next destination, just like you would ask somebody for directions on the road and you get to your destination. You know where you're going, but you need someone to help you get to that destination, right? That's SEO, that's guidance, that's clicks, that's walkthrough, that's navigation. If you don't have these pages active, it's not going to work for you at all. And when you think about, TV that I mentioned earlier, being on Vibe, running ads there, you can run ads definitely. People will say, what's the cost? It depends on you. But there are definitely some metrics you have to follow that if you use that pathway, then you're guaranteed of success because advertising has never gone wrong. The reason why people don't advertise well is because people don't advertise to the right people. That's the reason. Same thing with SEO. If you're not writing for the right people, you're writing to the wrong person. You're writing to the wrong persona. You're writing to the wrong avatar. If you're doing organic marketing, then marketing has to start from what is in the market, right? If I'm organically advertising this product, it means that I'm putting things out there in form of SEO to let people know about my business. Right now, I have a client and I'm super excited about this client and this challenge because sometimes you get different things and they're different because everyone says, oh, SEO, SEO. For me, the way I see SEO is fun because it's business, but it's fun to me because I play with graphs, science. I play with numbers. I'm able to really understand, see how it goes. Hey Shay, welcome. You are thinking about those little things that go a long way. Hey, and you're looking in between the lines to see, okay, what's working in between these things? If it's working, keep it going because advertising is really important. When you advertise to the right person, if you advertise to somebody who's in need of water after running a marathon, they're not going to ask you what are the benefits of water. They're going to quickly ask you how much it is and how can I get it now? Because that's a hot lead. The person is thirsty. He or she needs water to drink after a marathon. They're not going to ask you the price of the water. They're going to drink the water because they want a cold glass or they want a cold bottle. They want to refresh their body. They want to rejuvenate. So it's not about how much it costs. At that point, that the cost is not even the thought process. It's the experience and the benefit of the solution that you're providing. That's where the goal is. And that's where we're going to dive deeper in today. So we're not going to talk about how much things cost. You know the cost of how much things are. The goal here is to know how much can you put in based on what you know that if you give somebody this page, then they can actually connect with you and actually get to learn more about you from LinkedIn all the way to your email, all the way to your business. So we're going to dive deep into this today. So I'm excited about the topic. Hey, Juliana, how are you? Happy New Week.
Well, I heard somebody say this morning, Happy Money Day. So we are changing Monday to Money Day.
Already. Facts.
So it's funny how you're talking about selling water to someone who that's a good analogy to an experience I had today. Thanks to you, of course, my SEO is right on par. I had somebody Googled me up and then he called me. And this man has a letter from the IRS that he's supposed to file his taxes by he claimed initially that he's supposed to file by tomorrow, the 2023 tax return. And I'm like, whoa, 2023, and it has to be filed in within 24 hours? And then he was upset when I said, I'm sorry, my bandwidth, I can't handle in 24 hours to, drop everything that I'm doing to work for you. And he was upset. I'm like, so I said, okay, let me call this guy back and find out what the pressure is. What do you need? Initially, he didn't tell me it was the IRS. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe he has a kid, getting a student loan and maybe he needs it or he needs it for a mortgage. So I said, let me see how I can help this guy. So I called him back. And do you know what he told me in the end? He goes, well, just because I'm in a rush, I don't want you to take advantage of me going to charge me a huge fee. And I'm like, what? I was shocked. And I said, I'm not going to say it. Yeah. I'm like, what does this guy think I am? I'm sitting here as a mother thinking maybe he needs it for fast. So let me see if I have to drop other things and put more resources and get it done for him. If it's for fast and the deadline is tomorrow, I said I don't want the guy to feel that no CPA was willing to help him. So I'm calling him with good heart. And for him to throw it in my face that I'm calling him back and to tell him a big price. So I said, sir, I tried to help you, but at this point, I think you need to go find somebody else. So, like you're saying, some people will say, okay, because of that, you're going to, bump the price up. So, long story short, I say all that to say SEO is good, but sometimes you get a lot of wackos calling you. I'm done talking.
Thank you, Juliana. I appreciate you on a money day like today. Appreciate you. It feels good, like when you see these things happen, especially with SEO, it's working. I'm looking at clients' accounts. I'm just like, oh my goodness, something is happening. Because the way I'm doing things now, and I'm glad you said that too, Juliana, when it comes to search, gone are the days when people used to search for restaurants near me and just pick anything. People are looking for conversations. They're looking for real talk. And if you're not on the AI servers, then I don't know how you're going to react or respond to the questions that they're asking. There's going to be a lot of things going on right now. There's something called AI mode. I don't know if you know about that. It's called Google AI mode. That is something if you want more emails like that, please click the link above and you get all the emails. We have over 7,000 subscribers signed up. So if you want to be part of those people who get these emails, please click the link above because we're growing rapidly. And yeah, Google AI mode. And I sent the community the link to the wait list so that if you have it, you can use it. And by the way, I gave them a pro hint. I said, when you sign up, don't sign up with your professional email because it won't work. Sign up with your personal email because at gmail.com is a domain by Google Mail. And if you sign up with your professional work email, it's not going to work because they won't give you access to their servers as your own domain hosting. So it's a little technical, but just sign up with a Gmail account, easy to go, join the wait list, but join the link at the top. If you want to book a call, feel free to do so and we can talk about it, and we can actually have a conversation because people are doing things really wrong, really, really wrong, like really, really wrong when it comes to advertising because people are spending money on crazy things. Think about it. Imagine I checked it today. I spent with a client. We've been really building her website and it's really growing now. We've spent $2 on Pinterest. Somebody tell me how much we've gotten in a week. It's not a crazy number, but it's a crazy number for the amount of money you're putting into advertising. If nobody gives me an answer in 10 seconds, I'm going to say it. But if you think about the long term, I'm so serious today. If you think about the value that you're giving your consumers based on ads, it's crazy. If you check out my replays here, I don't delete replays. I saw a replay today. Somebody listened to my replay back in 2022. I saw my replay. Let me go to the notifications on Clubhouse. So I'm gonna give you guys a real talk today. Hold on. There we go. June 14th, 2022. That's a 97-minute room that we had. Back in 2022, I was talking about hashtags and Pinterest. So people are still listening. 2025, that's 3 years, almost 3 years now. So in 2028, someone could be listening to this right now. So that's why you think about SEO, it's a long-term thing. Because when you look at those links in the chat, the links in the top of the room, those links stay there forever. It's like blogs. They don't go anywhere unless you delete it. But if it's accessible, if you made it accessible, imagine writing a blog on your website and then you have links to your Clubhouse replays that people can listen to on the web. It's like a podcast, but you take them to your podcast to have a more in-app experience. And then you can take them to your website and connect to them on a deeper level because people stay on the surface level and just say, hey, follow me on IG. What about my email? What about an in-person event? What about shaking hands? What about taking a selfie? Like, what about those things? Sometimes we don't think about those things. And when we don't, we miss out on opportunities that we could have had, and people get to know you a little deeper just because they got to see your face or they got to smile in front of you. And it happens. I met a lot of people on Clubhouse. Juliana, we got to meet last year on Clubhouse, and a lot of people you get to connect because these replays, they do wonders. It's like a podcast. It will grow. If you plant on the right soil, it will grow. That's why with advertising it's different. So nobody gave me a number. So we've spent $2, right? We've spent $2. I want to give you guys the numbers because I don't want to be giving random figures. I want to be speaking like straight numbers. All right, bet. So in the last, because we started this on Thursday. Yeah. There we go. We started this on Thursday, running ads on Pinterest on Thursday. We've spent $2. $2, guys. Two. And we've had 3 orders and 106 sessions. And she made $138.45. That's with Pinterest. Yeah, y'all are looking at me like, huh? Yeah. Hey, what's up, Austin? I'm giving y'all strategies today because I don't want to talk fluff. I want to give you guys the real thing. Because people are spending $5 a day. The problem is not how much your budget is. The problem is who you're talking to and how you're talking to them and what are they listening to. How did we do this? We did zip code marketing. That's how we narrowed it down. We got the exact locations, the exact people who were able to understand, okay, this is already her customer list. She has over 60,000 products. So she's like, why am I not making any sales? Favor? That's because your SEO was not technically connected. You have 60,000 links on your website, but those 60,000 links are being rejected by the servers because there are a lot of error messages, there's duplicate content, there's broken links, there's broken images. Like you think about a house that you want to remodel, right? If you're in real estate, think about a house you want to remodel. And this house is maybe a 7-bedroom house. And there's so many things in each room that have to be done before you can even invite somebody in to cut the ribbon. It's gonna be a long time before that happens because there's a lot to take out. So we were like, oh man, we gotta dig this out. But look, thank God it took us 2 months for her to get her first sale. So people say, oh, what's going on now? She's making sales on a weekly basis, but it took us 2 months to get to one sale. And he spent $2 to get $138.45. So does it make sense? Yes. To some people may say, huh? How sway? But hey, if you do things correctly, you will be able to find the right people. Because if you're getting leads conversion on 2 cents, 5 cents, 18 cents, it's different. I'm running an ad right now on Meta. I've been running it all through the year. Not really through the year, but since February. I'll say February 25th to be exact. And I've spent $124.62 and I've gotten 800 clicks with 16 cents per click on Meta because I'm focusing on specifically on specific places. You know, when people say, "Oh, I'm doing a $5 a day ad and I'm running it throughout the US," in my mind I'm like, "Please no." Because you're wasting that money. And imagine adding up $5 in form of 1 cent each. So like 1 cent, 2 cents, 3 cents, 4 cents, 5 cents, 10 cents, 50 cents, 100 cents. Then you start again. You keep going till you get to $1. Then you keep going till you get to $2. Then you go to $5. So when you think about the cents that you are spending, those cents have to make sense. It just has to make sense, complete sense, because the sense you're using to handle the senses that you're touching, because there are 5 senses, right? There's always a sixth sense. People say that, but there are 5 senses, right? Welcome, Pierre. There are 5 senses. So when people are hearing your ads, when people are watching your videos, when they're looking at their phones and looking at their screens, when they're looking at the colors on the screen, when they're looking at the music, when they're thinking about what you're presenting, it has an emotional impact, either positive, neutral, or negative. And most times people are neutral, just swipe, 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 no emotion, no, nothing. Like you're just zombies. You have to look at things in a way that changes and look at it from the perspective of the consumer, because the person wants to feel loved. They want to feel like I'm being talked to. I don't want to be talked at. There's a difference. So when you're connecting the dots and you're giving people insights, your goal is to say, okay, I want to communicate through email. I want to communicate through here, from here to here. How does that work? If you're going to do TV, you have to spend X amount of dollars to do that. We can talk about those numbers on a call. Podcast is the same thing. Podcast is like Clubhouse right now. If you're listening to this, you're listening to a podcast. You're listening to an audio blog. You're listening to an audio message. So when you're listening to information that you're listening through, right? You're listening to it, but you're also listening through the message. You're trying to understand, what can I understand that will make sense to me? Because the last thing I want to do is waste your time. 100%, because I'm here giving you information that you would listen to a year from now. You'll be like, yeah, this makes sense. Because I'll listen to it myself. I'm like, wow, that actually was, well, that makes sense. Have you ever listened to lyrics? Like, because I'm in music too. I'm a songwriter. I'm a drummer too. Have you ever listened to music and then maybe 10 years later, 20 years later, you're like, those were the lyrics? Oh, okay. And I've been singing this all along, because that's what your mind has been telling you the whole time. And we know songs like that. So when you think about the psychological factor in marketing, advertising is a big deal, because if someone's advertising something to you, then it's a long-term thing. Think about the Super Bowl that just happened with all the ads. How many people remember all the ads that happened at the Super Bowl? Not many, but I remember the ones that made sense to me, the one that had an emotional impact, because there was something that made sense at the time it was presented. So, as a small business, your goal should not be running ads. Your goal should be building connections. One connection, two connections, three connections, four connections, five connections. Now you have 10 on LinkedIn. Then you have 100 connections. Those connections have connections, but we don't use our connections because we don't like to connect. And what does connect mean? It means I'm in the same interest bucket, or I'm in the same affinity as you. We go to the same high school. We go to the same college. We go to the same restaurant. We go to the same hotel. We like the same airlines. We love the same styles of food. We love different types of outfits. We might actually like the same sneakers. We might like the same hairstyle. Whatever it is, fill in the blank. Like, it's all up to you. But at the end of the day, if that product does not resonate, it would not reflect in anything else but confusion. That's why when you send an email, you have to think about connections. I'm having a situation right now with a client. Like, I learn more from my clients than they learn from me. Today I've learned about bone structure. Last week I learned about home birth. Today I've learned about financial planning. I hear so many things. I'm like, wow, this is intense. There's one specifically that I'm learning about. He's a client in Bosnia, and he has 50,000 subscribers. Right? He had zero. Now he has 50,000 subscribers. Now we have a new problem. Like, and this actually, let me break this down. If you guys have never heard of, I know you've heard me say Google Search Console, Google Search Console. If you've never heard me say this, try this out. There's a platform on Google called Postmaster Tools. I'm saying this once. Check that tool out, and just check if your email is compliant. Because if you're not in compliance with the email service providers, if you're not in compliance with the servers, the algorithms, the API systems, if your business authentically as a domain is not authenticated in a way that you can actually present and say, hey, here's my identification, and it's valid, it's certified, it's credible, and it's legal. I don't know how you will be able to pass all those things, because sometimes when you think about your websites, you're not making sales not because the product is not good, but because you're probably missing a privacy policy that needs to be there. That could be a little thing. So with this client now, the problem is with all these 50,000 subscribers. Welcome, Wendy. We're just talking about Flowdesk right now. He has these amount of numbers that he sent out an email and it flagged the system. So he got an email saying that, oh, he can't send out emails because this happened and his sender reputation has gone down. So when you move from platform to platform, when you move from house to house, it makes sense. Like, it makes total sense. And to him, it didn't make sense, but I had to explain to him in a voice message. I couldn't type because I said, if I type this, someone's going to read this the wrong way, and I want you to hear what I'm really, really saying. So after he gave me a heart on, I knew, okay, he hearted the message. I was happy because he was fuming. And it wasn't on me, it was on them, on Flowdesk. Because I'm like, how do I have 50,000 subscribers and I can't send an email? Like, what is that? These people opted in. They are not bots. These are real people who took a quiz and I actually got a result. So how are these people not real? So it's a whole battle. And now, because of SEO, because of his podcast, because of his email, now we're trying to rectify this because he moved from Aweber to Flowdesk. And this was like 6 years ago. So I'm not talking about like we moved last week. This was a long time ago. And then he reached out to me again on Messenger, like, hey, long time. What have you been up to? And, life has changed for him. Life has changed for me. Like, we're in so different worlds, but now we're working again together because of relationships, right? So now, with this guy, I'm just like, how are we going to solve this? But I'm excited because we're actually towards the end of it. That's why I'm talking about it now. And we had to literally talk to Flowdesk because last week I actually got to meet the founders at Flowdesk. Last week, was it Thursday? Yeah, Wednesday or Thursday. I got to meet the founders. I even talked to them. Like, I was the first one to ask a question in live mode, and I even have a recording so that one day I'm going to post it out. But this is huge, right? So, and that's a very specific question. I won't talk about that now. But I I've gone to the point where now as a business, I'm not just doing business because I want to subscribe to an account or subscribe to a platform. It's because I want to really know the true value of this platform. So they're big on authenticity, they're big on integrity, and they're also big on service. So him having this problem now is because he moved from Aweber to Flowdesk, and he hadn't. And here's where the problem was: he hadn't sent an email from the time he moved from Aweber. So when he moved, he didn't send yeah, he didn't move by sending because he didn't know what to do. He was like, okay, I need to move, but I don't know what to do. So I said, okay, you've had all these subscribers flock in. They've definitely come in through one way or the other through SEO because we applied SEO on his YouTube. Now he's monetized on YouTube. So I'm looking at this guy 5 years, 6 years down the line. I'm like, okay, now we have a new problem. So from Aweber to Flowdesk, when you switch, if something happens to your domain. I've never said this before. Something happens to your domain. So what I'm coming to realize, and we learn things every day. So I don't know everything, guys. So please don't think Favor knows everything. I don't know everything. The more I know, the more I don't know. So I'm learning. And I was able to understand this because each client has a unique experience. And I love it because we brainstorm with the team. And I realized that because he hadn't used it, it's because he hadn't been able to warm up the audience. Because when you're sending an email to people, emails have IP addresses. Emails are opened on devices. Emails are opened with mobile networks or Wi-Fi networks, right? I can even say cloud networks, depending on how you do it. When you now create content that you're sending to those places, and those are the same places you want to advertise to, because we're talking about advertising today, and these are the strategies. If you're advertising to people in an area, that means that within this zip code area, there's a set IP address system. That's why when you see an ad on Netflix, somebody in Idaho sees something completely different from Hawaii because those two are watching the same show but having two different advertisements because they're two different demographics. So when you start thinking about your sender reputation score, you want to know, am I in the green or am I in the red? And sometimes when you're in the red, that's why you're getting a click rate that's 2%, 5%, and that's not normal. Before I used to think it was abnormal to have 80%. We've had an 80% open rate with over 7,000 subscribers. And a click rate of close to about 60%. So I know it's possible because people say, oh, yeah, the higher the volume, the lower the average, which does make sense because 1% of 1 and 1% of 10 is a difference. But when you start thinking about the volume, sending volume is different. So it got to a point where we said, okay, when you move from one platform to the other, you need to warm up the audience. It's like a house. When you move from house to house or apartment to apartment, you got to turn off the lights and then you got to turn on the new lights. You got to stop the plan, start a plan, right? It's not going to just carry over. So it's the same thing with your website. When your website shuts down, the lights are off. That means you're not getting any domain security, you're not getting any domain service, you're not getting anything. And sender reputation also follows through with your IP address too, because you're sending emails from a place, from a business address. So everything is connected. It's not like, oh, it's too many things. I just saw on LinkedIn somebody said something really good on LinkedIn today. And And she said, and I'm paraphrasing, she said that the problem is not too many tools. The problem is disconnected data. And that hits so hard because you're looking at information and you're wondering, okay, I'm looking at this console, I'm looking at this email. Why is this not working? Why is this not happening? Yet, the technical base has not been set in place that you can actually send a message and it can hit somebody's inbox. So there's so many things you have to think about as a business, and we're going to tap into this as well. And I'm excited about this. Yes, feel free, Pierre. What's going on? Good
Hey,
evening.
Favor. Hey, I wanted to jump in if I could, just add to this a little bit if I could. I sort of hear the message about the data, and even Austin, I'm going to give a shout out to him because he talked about data silos. The tools can sometimes, I think for advertising, if you're talking about ads for whether it's social media or Google, sometimes the tools do kind of hinder a little bit if you're using only, let's say, ads for Meta versus ads for Google. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of times each one of these tools for ads are usually geared to a particular platform, but if you're in business, you're not in the business of ads necessarily as much as it is your product or service, and you're looking at ads as being a medium to carry a message about the product, service, maybe the event that you're advertising, and those tools can be a little limited in how you look at your advertising. Like for example, um, any sort of social media ad, if you there's usually some level of analytics that comes with it. X, even before when it was Twitter, had Twitter analytics to it. Facebook, yeah, there's a Facebook. There's analytics for the ads, which even in Facebook, there's also what's called the Meta Business Suite, where you can where you can ideally look at Instagram and Facebook all across. But the point is that each one of these has slightly different takes on the metrics. So sometimes that becomes a slightly different take on answering certain questions. Like, yes, we have impressions on these ads, but how did that translate to sales? Now, to be fair, there are things within those platforms that help you to understand or answer that question within that platform for sure. But if you're a business owner where you're running ads across different platforms, like running Google ads and let's say Facebook ads, then that question needs to be answered. That question needs to be answered not only within those platforms, but against your business. What is it that you're doing? And I think that part is the one that I think that business owners have to kind of pay attention to. The data part is important. Don't get me wrong. I agree with what was said a little bit about data silos, but what I'm talking about is maybe the next level of how things can spiral a little bit. If your data is not great, um, when you're talking about ads, that's a good conversation, but the dig in may be more nuanced than what the business owner might be ready to go through. But getting to that question of, did this ad increase my sales? Did running this campaign increase my sales? That can be a broader question that comes up. I'm also going to add one more thing, Favor, and then I'm going to kind of shut up a little bit. I try not to, whenever I come into rooms, I just try to add. I try not to like grandstand. So forgive me a little bit if I talk lengthy. But the biggest thing I would suggest too is, and I hope this adds on to what you're saying as well. Many times when business owners run ads, they still kind of treat it like a newspaper ad, and they shouldn't. And here's what I mean by this. Back in the day when we had newspapers, the idea was that you ran an ad and people saw the ad and they were supposed to, oh, here's the ad, I'm going to go to Macy's. Here's the ad, I'm going to go to Kmart. Um, Social media ads and digital ads are really meant to complement your digital presence, which means you need to think about which platforms or which arenas you're working in consistently. If you're running Google ads, for example, that means that your Google search might be strong. Those ads are meant to augment um, or meant to augment how you are exposed online, and that augmentation gets into keywords, or target words, the things like you do for intent, things that you do for long term. Um, those sort of things but the ads ultimately complement a platform. So use all this discussion Everything that Favor is saying, use all of this to help you in making decisions on if you're running your exposure on a particular platform, whether it's Google, maybe Bing search is better for you because you know that it's better for the industry. There's a lot of people who do use Bing. A lot of people use Instagram. A lot of people use X. No matter which platform, think about the exposure you have consistently, and then use those ads to help augment how you are exposed. And I think when you do that, you'll get better return on what your ad spend is. You'll find maybe better conversions, and plan those ads to fill those gaps of how you are messaging. I think when you focus on that, you'll get better results. Favor, I hope this adds on to the discussion too. I'll land my plane here.
Thank you so much for that, Pierre. You're right. It definitely does. And welcome everybody that I can see that jumped into the room. I see you, Chris, Michelle, Devi, No Carbs, Yeshua, Marcy, and Simone, Mr. Chris, Zainab, and Ron. I just saw y'all come in. Thank you for being here. I just wanted to acknowledge you guys in the room too. You're so right about that, Pierre. Super right. Because it's either you're getting skewed data, right? Or you're getting quality data. And you can have a mixture of both. And you said something about Bing that is so true. One of the sales I was talking about with a client that was able to convert, we were spending $2 and we're getting almost $200 back, is because we're on Pinterest, but we're also on Bing. And people don't really know that Bing is a thing because Bing is where people search. And guess where Bing is next to? OpenAI. Where's that next to? ChatGPT. Where is that next to? Voice search. So when you're adding, and that's why when you're doing your Google Search Console, they ask you, do you want to import or do you want to manually in place? We rather import because when you're importing content data fields from other sources. So welcome, Renee. When you're connecting data sources from different sources, then you have to make sure that they all connect together because you can look at your Shopify store and see direct Google, Pinterest, LinkedIn. You'll be looking at them and you're like, okay, we're getting orders from here, we're getting sales from here. Is it translating? If I send you an email, is that email translating to sales? If I send 10 emails in a month and I made no sales, and I sent, let's say, 10 emails again and I made sales, what would that look like for someone that's advertising? Because advertising is consistently putting up information that allows someone to see it to the point where they feel like, okay, now I know about this. There's no big company out there that's not running ads. No big company out there that's not running ads. Even if it's a little bit of a few dollars, it's there. People say you have your own numbers, but people say it's good to put at least 1 to 10% into your marketing budget if you have a business, at least 1 to 10%. Some people can go above that. Some people can do anything they want to do. But if you're really thinking about your top line, you're thinking about your connections, at least 1 to 10% is great because if you're spending a few dollars to get more leads that are actually interested, it's not that you're scraping or trying to take information from them. They're actually coming to you. It's attractive. It's more of an inbound strategy, even though you're getting data from them, is more of an inbound than an outbound strategy. So when you're running ads so that your business can be seen. Now, where do you want your business to be seen? On Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Pinterest? Where do you want them to be? If you think about any platform as you think about where you want to run ads on, also think about email in the sequence. Because when you start having emails and you start sending emails, these emails are the very emails that people will see, that they're going to connect with, and they're going to learn about you. Because when they're reading, guess what? Where are they going to go next to connect with you? LinkedIn. It happens to me. I'll see somebody sends a message on LinkedIn after an email was sent, and it just happens naturally. Then somebody, books a call. Today's replay, I got a notification on, on Clubhouse that somebody listened to the replay and it's been growing since 2022. So when I'm seeing these things happen and the time it's happening, I'm like, this is a repetition. It's a cycle. It's a flow. It's something I can say, okay, from this month to this month, this happens at this time. And I'm also paying attention to the details. Even the time that they buy. Clients are buying products from, their stores at 6 a.m., 7 a.m. I'm like, okay, That means if I'm sending an email, I should be sending an email that early morning because early bird catches the worm. You all know that phrase, right? The early bird catches the worm. So if you look at your emails and you know, okay, people are making purchases at this time, you have to be very conscious about those things because you got to know, are they moms? Are they in business? Are they travelers? Are they book readers? Are they sports enthusiasts? Like, where are they? Are they sustainability focused? What do they think about every day? Do they like hiking, walking? Today I did a walk today. It was really great. I was able to cover a mile, which was really good because I'm taking care of myself, right? And it feels good because you're so busy, busy, busy that you forget about your own health, right? Sometimes I even forget to eat. It's terrible. That's one thing I got to work on because I'm so busy helping people that I forget myself in the process. But I mean, we still at the end of the day have to, find a balance and strike one. So as you connect with people and you know what you're doing for the people, then you want to be of service to people. That's why I'm here on Clubhouse. I did about over 190 rooms last year on Clubhouse. It's probably more than that because I didn't have all of them in the room that were recorded. So that shows that a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, God willing, people will still listen to these replays and still learn a few new things. I've talked about Google AI mode. That's the new thing coming up. People don't know about that. It's like, oh, okay, it shows up. Oh, we have something new, nice, shiny object. It's good to know these things early so that when you see them happen, you're not caught by surprise at all. But you also want to be surprised too because you don't want things to be boring either. So you want to at least plan out your time and see how you can do that. At the beginning of this room, I talked about TV, how you can get on TV, and I'm talking about streaming services like Peacock, Netflix, Hulu. I've talked about podcasts, right? There's also email, which we've talked about today. There's Pinterest, which I've already explained to in form of a scenario. There's news article, which I haven't really gone deeper into, which I want to go into now. News articles are as close as Pinterest, right? That's why I put them together because you can spend 20 cents. Those 20 cents will be the best 20 cents you've ever spent because you can reach a good set of people that are specifically focused on what you provide as a product or service. It takes a lot of research and development. Great. R&D check. Now, the next thing is, what am I going to check off the list? Am I going to do emails? Am I going to do research? Am I going to do billboards? That's what I'm going to go to after news articles. Because when you're reading an article, then it means that you're an avid reader. So think about it like this. If I'm advertising on TV, it means that I'm focused on people who like to watch TV. Not everybody likes to watch TV. Not everyone likes to watch movies. Not everyone likes to watch series. Not everyone likes a podcast or even listens to podcasts. So if some of my friends don't listen to podcasts, so I'm cool with that because they rather watch TV or go do something and play a game than listen to a podcast. Everybody is unique. Everyone has their own thing, right? So if I'm running ads to people that watch TV, then that means I'm looking at people who are focused on TV, meaning they like video, meaning they like to sit down, they like to listen. They like to pay attention. They like to chill. They like to lay back. Like, I'm not just thinking about the television. I'm thinking about the person behind the television that has a life. So when you think about these people, it changes everything. Podcasts, they love audio. They love listening. So how do you connect with these people if you're running an ad on a news article? Let's say you go to CNN.com and you see an article, or you go to Women's Health or Men's Health, or you go to the dictionary.com and you see a 30-second audio clip and you listen to it. That means that these people like to be readers. They like to be avid readers. Guess what? I'll subscribe to your newsletter if you give me a chance to. So if you tell me, hey, did you enjoy this video? Did you enjoy this audio? Subscribe to the newsletter so you can get more because they listened to the audio on a news article web page, meaning that if they're using their screens to view articles, it means they like to read. It means they like blogs. It means they like newsletters. They like updates. They like emails. That's the psychological back end of everything. Pinterest, another one. They love to view things, they love to plan. They're visual, they're thinkers, they're planners, right? These are, I mean, this is very basic because when you look at everything in reflection of what you're doing, you want to understand how do things work. Billboards is different. If I'm running ads on a billboard, it means that I'm looking for people who are on the go, right? I'm looking for people who are ready to go, like, oh, scan this and go, scan this and go. These are people who have no time to sit down, they're on the move. They'll see something, they'll screenshot it, they'll think about it tomorrow, they'll do it when they get home, but they're on the go. Hey, listen to my podcast, and you're in the middle of traffic and you have a billboard there. They're going to look at your Apple Podcast and their Apple CarPlay and pick something, or they're probably using their phone to listen to something on Spotify and they just tune in because they're looking up and they see you there because you have something to show. And it's of interest to them because you're in a city that you're advertising that you know they are actually attracted to your business product line. That's it. Then SEO, of course, there are searches on the web. There are 46.1 billion searches a day on the web. That's what, let me actually do the math. Give me a second. I want to do the math for you guys. Yeah, that's 5 times more the world population today. This is across all platforms. This is not just Google or Pinterest. This is across, let's call it 50 billion, right? Let's round it up. 50 billion searches a day on the web, on the World Wide Web. Dot Pinterest, dot Facebook, dot Google, dot TikTok, fill in the blank. But the World Wide Web has way more searches than the number of people in the world today. Welcome back, Charmaine. So, how does your business show up 365, 24/7, advertising for at least $1 a day? That's $365 you could write off as a business. But in return, you've educated someone, you've impacted a community, you've changed a perspective, you've added a new thought process, you've created a new line of ideas because of your energy and because of what you brought to the table. If they didn't know that, how will they know what to do? There's some things that if you didn't know, you'd be doing the same thing today if you didn't know how to do it differently. So these are the things you have to look at as a long-term plan as a business owner. And I feel like this section of today's room is the meat and potatoes of everything. Because as a small business, the last thing you should be thinking about is running ads. Please don't run ads if you haven't spent a second on your website. At least writing content, even if the content is not completed, even if the content is bad, at least write something. And I don't mean bad like you didn't take your time. Bad as in maybe it's not technically done correctly, right? I mean, you can write English, you can write in your language, but write it in a way that if I can read this a year from now, I can understand what you were trying to explain or portray or, clarify or exemplify. That way, I know, okay, this is what you're trying to say. Then I'll come back and say, okay, I'm going to technically change this. We're doing this right now with a client. She has over 100 articles. And the worst part is, I don't even know how Squarespace did this. It was so, I'm like, how did this happen? We're getting a website post completion. It's either we build your website from scratch or we get it after it's completed, but we still have to audit the website because we know there are things that are going to happen. So we audited the website. Come to find out, the sitemap has alphanumeric characters in all the pathway URLs where it has blog. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, here we go. But at the same time, I'm excited because Google Search Console is not going to get those slash blog slash x597027. It's not going to work. It's buggy. It's not right. It's not even semantically, aesthetically pleasing. So when you think about the long-term plan and you know that, okay, this article is about this and this and this, I'm gonna name it, just like Adam named the animals in the in the Garden of Eden, right? Or this is a zebra, this is a hippo, this is a frog, because that's the vision that created that. It was unstructured data that turned into structured data. So your blog could be unstructured data because you could write anything, talk about everything, and then you go to a professional, and then they take that into something and create a masterpiece out of that. And now you have an article that has technical SEO, on page SEO, off page SEO, right? Because you're doing things correctly. And that article you wrote a year ago, 2 years ago, is now refreshed in the algorithm cycle. And now you have a new URL, you have a new pathway. Yeah, it's like the road is clear. It's like building a new road on the highway. It feels nice to drive on a new road, right? Compared to a road you've been driving for the last 20 years. So that feeling is different. Like, so I really want you guys to feel this. It's not just science or math or SEO or advertising, it's the emotion. How do you talk to the people you're connecting with? When you're running an ad, use the word you. When you're using an email, sending an email, use the word you. Don't use I. It will change a lot of things if you change that little thing from I to you. Go ahead, Pierre.
Uh,
What do you say?
I'll add to that if I can, Favor. And I love what you're touching upon, to be honest with you, because I think the thing that business owners sometimes overlook is that we start with this idea of content and what we think is connecting with customers initially, but those two things evolve over time for a lot of reasons that are not necessarily technical. For content, it may just be a matter of new products versus the older products that you started off with. That's a big reason why your SEO will change. If you've geared your SEO around something as simple as apple pie or peach pie, and then let's say that as a baker you discover that cobbler is like the number one dessert that draws people into cafes. They stay longer, they order coffee. You may decide that your SEO might need to be adjusted to account for apple cobbler and peach cobbler. It could be that subtle. And I love what Favor brought about content. It's something that changes over time, and even your customer base, which is the second part, can change. And that one may be a little tougher, to be honest with you. SEO has a really good, um, I don't want to say passive aggressive, but at a certain level, I teasingly say that because to get the audience you want, it means making the investment in the content you want to have. And the challenge becomes, if you know that your products and services are changing, you have to kind of start issuing. I'm not saying you gotta have a blog a second, but definitely you need to have content over time, some sort of drip campaign that lets people adjust to the new products and services that you have. Think of any retailer, like whether it's McDonald's. We don't think of McDonald's for chicken, yet they have chicken sandwiches and chicken McNuggets because they have to compete with Chick-fil-A. Every business owner may not be a McDonald's, but you definitely will have some sort of alteration in either A, your product lineup or service lineup over time, or B, your audience, preferences may change where you need to kind of match up to it. And I think Favor brings up really good points about that because it gets overlooked over time. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just one of those things that you just find that you happen. I don't know of anybody that ever hit it out of the park initially with a product or service and kept on with that. I mean, everybody makes the adjustment at some level at some time. Back to you, Favor.
Love that, Pierre. Thank you so much for that insight. You're right. There has to be an intention, 100%. Like, you can't just do stuff because you want to. You have to see the reason behind it and also know that you're sending something that you know may come back in crazy ways. But if you send it out with the right energy, with the right mindset, with the right intention, it will come back in the right way in form for you. And, when you mention this, especially when it comes to the retention part and even the data collection is very different, right? Because you're thinking heavily on how this person is going to receive this information. Some people leave their email addresses when they run ads. I don't know if you've ever thought about this though, but there are different types of email addresses: professional, personal, dummy emails. Like, you just have one that's just dormant for years and then you use it once every 5 years. Some people have emails like that. So when someone's running an ad and you put your email address, is your email address the email address that you use, or is it just an email address because you just want to put something there? And then the person that receives it, oh, we got leads. Great. But those leads, are they primary contacts? That's the real question. So instead of saying, what's your email address? What's your primary contact? because you're changing how you say things. And that way, someone can actually get a confirmation email because they feel like, okay, this is done. If I book a flight, if I book a hotel, if I book a restaurant and I don't get an email confirmation, there's a problem. I'm going to have to call support or chat with a live agent to figure out what's going on because I didn't get that confirmation. I had to do that for my mom recently with Delta because with Delta, as a Sky Miles member, you can use the Delta text. This is so unrelated, but I think it's all related too. You can use the Delta. There's a Delta text number. I think every airline should have one, but I know with Delta, once you have their phone number and you just have it in your literally in your iMessage section, you can just tap in and connect with somebody instead of going to the website. So that's how I was able to get that solved in 5 minutes because we had to take off the word PhD out of my mom's boarding pass because it wasn't matching her passport. So I had to do that, and that was done in 5, 10 minutes. Why am I giving this example? Because when you're giving emails, I had to look for an email confirmation because I said, hey, could you please send this email confirmation to her? So I had to give them my mom's email so that they send it. So I said, hey, how's it going? They said they've sent it. Then she said she received it. That just confirmed everything. If she didn't get that email, I would still be looking for that confirmation to not today because that should tell someone, hey, it's confirmed, it's received. Now we can breathe. Now, if you sent an email and let's say you missed a letter or you made a typo, that's another problem. So there are so many layers to this that could cause anything. I could see this ad once and never see it again and might just miss a letter and I've lost the client completely. But guess what? If that person was really connected to you and you really made sense, they may have followed you, connected with you on a platform, and that's how they can actually connect with you further. So the emails, the connections, the way you send things are very different because at some point, someone's going to have to send you an email for confirming something, right? Whether it's a receipt or an invoice or a confirmation or a request for proposal, whatever it is, you'll get something that's going to let you know this is something I want to get into. Today, we just released a new episode, in celebration of Women's History Month. This day, Monday, and Juliana calls it, I love how she said it, it's called Money Day. There is an episode that we recorded this in 2023, right? And this episode came out today. And she's all the way in Australia. I'm just giving you guys a quick backstory. She's all the way in Australia, in Sydney. I'm putting the link at the top so you guys can listen to it and get some really good insight. She talked about even when you go to a restaurant, there's a way when you go to a restaurant and you look at the menu, the font of the menu changes the taste of the food. I don't want to go too deep, but she's an expert. She's been doing this for years, for decades, and she also worked with Chris Doe as well. So like she's doing her thing. So we had an interview, and I connected with her. Why I'm bringing this up is because of where I'm going with this message. I connected with her on LinkedIn because before I publish any episode, I always do like a research on the person. I've already done it before, but I do a second layer of research, and I'm like, okay, let me see what's going on social media. So this is 2 years in. I see her LinkedIn. I connect with her and I say, Lisa. And then she responds back. I was like, okay, it's Australia. It's probably going to be late. So she responds back after an hour. And I'm still busy trying to get things. And because I'm already about to hit publish. So I'm really kind of like, okay, I'm waiting on my computer. Let me get this out. And she responds back. And I send a message in a voice message to say, hey, thank you again for being on the show. This is what's happening. Then she responds back with a voice message because not many people use LinkedIn voice. Anytime I use LinkedIn, I use voice because I'll type if I need to, but if I want to connect with you and it's been a while or if it's the first time, I want to make sure that that connection is really strong and then we can have a virtual coffee session because I want to make the intention of connections. Like it says LinkedIn connections, it's not LinkedIn stay there. It doesn't work like that. So from sending her that message, she sent it back and she's like, oh yeah, I'm excited about the episode. And she's like, it's perfect timing. That's why sometimes when you think about things, just do things at the right time and things will just work out perfectly. Like she was on my mind for about 2 weeks. I was like, I got it. And this was during the month of Women's History Month. I was like, I got to get her episode out. And you know what's even crazier? I thought I lost the episode because I remember we recorded that episode when I was not by my computer with my podcast gear, so I had to use a different platform to record. And I was looking at my hard drive, and I'm like, I don't see it in my hard drive. I don't see it in my cloud drive. I'm like, where is this episode? I can see the date stamp. I'm like, I don't miss things. Like I have episodes all the way back to 2019. So how did I miss this 2023 episode? Come to find out, I recorded it on Fathom because I always record meetings. Whenever we have a Zoom meeting, I record on Fathom. So I didn't know it was on Fathom. So I typed in her name. I was like, boom, there it is. I was like, finally, thank God. So I extracted it. And even with podcasts right now, there's a way with podcasting, you don't even have to all the ums and ahs. I don't say ums and ahs in my talks, but if we're doing any kind of thing that's going to help us clear those things out for clients, we will. So what did I do? I was like, I'm trying to really find out, okay, what's the best thing to do for post production? Because I have a team that's handling post production, but at the same time, I'm like, I'd rather help them save time. So I was looking at this episode. I'm like, this episode you see at the top here, I used AI and I scraped through the audio, which was a video, and I was able to get the best parts and actually clean it up so that it can actually be listenable, if I can use that word, for audio purposes. And I was able to do that as well by connecting that and using two AI modules together to make sure that this podcast episode really goes out. Because I use Adobe Audition for recording. So I'm like, okay, if this is really the quality, let me use it this way and get it out there so that people can listen to it. So by doing this on LinkedIn, by doing this through email, by doing this on the podcast, it's already being listened to right now in 123 countries. It's going to take a while before it grows because this is a few hours ago. But I know podcast wise, any podcast that is released, I know just give it 30 days. It may sound like a lot of days, but those number of days are going to be great because you're feeding into people, you're connecting with people. And what I realized, and this is about advertising because I'm showing you guys how to do these things without having to pay for so many things. When you do this, especially with podcasts as a guest or as a host, the next month, between the next month to 3 months, you start to get emails, especially if you told them how they can connect with you. You start to get emails because I get emails. Hey, I want to be on your show. Hey, we want to connect. Hey, there's a guest available. And we don't run out of episodes. I feel like that's one thing God has blessed us with. We don't run out of episodes. We have over 200 episodes we've not pushed out. So we don't run out and we still record episodes every week. So we have more episodes in a year that can be released if we now do it all over again from day one because we're closing on 500 episodes now. I think we're at 482. And I'm just looking at the numbers. I'm like, yeah, this thing can push up really quickly, but I want to take time to do this because why it's even perfect timing for this episode is because she told me in the voice message on LinkedIn that she's about to start a new program, a leadership program in Austin. And I said Austin, Australia. Austin and Australia sound the same. Australia. And now she's about to do this and really like knock it off. So with this episode, she can really connect with people. And because I've connected her backlinks, referring domains, added all the SEO metadata inputs, I know that this is going to help her down the road in her launch. Indirectly, I don't have to run ads for her. This conversation is enough for people to find it online wherever they semantically connect on the web. So the goal is how do you show up and give people value that in time, in season, in due time, in due season, the right plant will grow into something that you can actually seed and you can actually become one with because you're connecting the dots and actually aligning the focus on what you're actually intentionally doing that for. It could be an article, it could be a blog, it could be a newsletter, it could be a forum, it could be a poll, it could be an illustration, it could be an infographic, it could be a podcast, it could be a reel, it could be anything that you put your mind to. And if you just decide on saying, okay, I want to start doing this thing now. How do I do this as a small business? Focus on growing connections. Focus on following people in places that you know that you can organically connect with them. And it doesn't feel like a struggle. It doesn't feel like stress because the last thing you want to do is stress the person that you're talking to. That's the bad start. So you want to have a really cool, nice flow that someone can at least connect with you, whether organically or paid wise. So wherever they're connecting with you, whether it's on TV, Podcast, email, Pinterest, news articles, billboards, or even SEO. Let it be organic. Let it be something that you can actually connect the dots and build long-term relationships with people. Now, I want to ask you this, Pierre, before we go. We have 5 more minutes. If you have any questions, please put it in the chat. This is a question I want to ask you, Pierre.
Okay, go right ahead. Rock and roll.
Here we go. If you had a budget and you wanted to decide whether to do organic or paid, and you had a 12-month timeline, how would you split that into organic and paid strategies? I'll give you my version, but I want to hear yours.
Okay, and thank you for the drum roll too. I think this is the first time in a while I had drum roll before before answering. Um, that's a good question. I would, my gut feeling would be, I tend to lean a little bit to paid, a little. Um, Although organic, I think there's a lot you can do in a 12-month period if you do it correctly. Um, because a lot of times the biggest driver for this for me is the number of events that I have during that year. And I usually, I think events, I usually think paid ads. And here's why. To my earlier statement about SEO, about search, I mentioned about it being, passive aggressive, that type of thing. Um, it's basically the best search works well when the customers, there's some people that have intent, some people have transactional, but there's going to be a lot of people who are using search as a way to find information and to learn about you. But they may not be transactional. They may not be ready to jump on that event yet. So when you are thinking about, um, let's say, conferences, maybe it's a webinar that you're planning, let's say 6 months into that, in the middle of that year or what have you, the paid ads can come into play. Those can be helpful, and they help in two ways. Number one, they can augment any content that you have that you're already are allowing to be discovered in search. They can, let's say, a digital ad can appear in the same area where somebody's looking for information on, using my apple pie and cobbler example. Let's say how to bake a apple cobbler, and you happen to have not only the article for that, but then you have an ad saying, "Hey, when if you need flour for that cobbler, we have great flour at our bakery. Come get 2 bags for the price of one," or something like that, basically. Or, "Hey, we're planning a webinar on how to bake your best peach cobbler of your life," and you can have a landing page or a registration page tied into that ad. So I tend to lean a little bit, and I say a little bit. Not like 70-80%, maybe like a 55 split, slightly unpaid. But I would say, before you even get to that point, ask yourself, in that whole year, how many events are you offering, or how many special things you're doing? And that might dictate, you might be able to get away with just the organic initially if you're just trying to teach people and lead into which leads to a sale. Because you have 12 months is a good enough amount of time to work with. It's just that when it comes to things that have a certain um, expiration date to it, you may want to think about having ads. And if your first time using ads, it's a terrific way of really thinking logically. What would it be like to run an ad for 2 weeks before the event and then stopping the campaign? So you get to think about budget a little bit more sharper than what you would just running the ad as a quote unquote as a newspaper, which in my opinion you should not be doing that at all. Hope that helps. Favor.
That was great. Thank you so much for that, Pierre. That was good. Yes, I definitely believe so, because there's so much from what you said when it comes to that split that you have to think about. For me, if I had 12 months with, like a budget that I would say, hey, and this is not for me, this is for whoever is needing the service or product. This is how I'd split it, and this is what we do. And if you have any questions, please click the link above, click book a call, and let's talk. My goal, our goal, what we're doing is to end up in 12 months to spend less money and time, but make more of it over time. Because when I think about the time investment is different. The lifespan of a blog post is 24 months. So if I know I'm going to spend 24 months thriving on a software, on a platform, in a niche, then I want to make sure that I'm going to do this in a way that can help me and also help the people that need this information. So if I was to split this up into 4 quarters, this is what I would do. And this is what I do. The first quarter, I would do 80% organic, 20% paid. I'll use a little bit of the Pareto principle, but still break it down a little bit more. Because that 80% organic, like you said, Pierre, is you want to have paid clients, right? You want to have paid connections. You want to pay, you know what I mean? You can't make money if you don't spend money. You can't make time if you don't spend time, right? If you spend time in the right places, you'll make more time for other things. So it's that law of reciprocity, right? So if I'm doing 20% paid, then it means that I'm spending a lot of my time building organic content that I know one day I may repurpose for a reason or two, or because I'm in a season that actually focuses on this. Like right now with our clients, we're focusing a lot on Mother's Day. Like right now, I know I don't even need to go to the calendar. Mother's Day this year is May 11th. Like we've talked with clients to the point where like I know that number now is literally there. Before I'll be like, what days? I know it's in May, but now because we're talking about it, it's there. So between now and then, what are we going to be doing as products, as services, as emails, as we're not even running ads yet? How are we doing these things now that when that time comes and everybody's going crazy, we already caught that 10 steps ahead because we already know what's going on. We already know what's happening. And people do that. It's just how to do it. So 80% organic, 20% paid, whatever the budget is, if it's from $1 plus. Second quarter, I'll do 50-50, right? Because I want to see what's really happening. Because not every web page that you publish, yes, will be indexed, but not all indexes are going to generate to sales. Like not all of them are going to attribute to that, but they're equally going to contribute to the sale. Welcome, Michelle. This is going to contribute. So 50% organic, 50% paid, right? Q3 is 20% organic, 80% paid. Why am I doing that? Because I know that's right after, kids are back in school. People are now thinking, okay, the kids are in school now. Now we got to think about all the holidays coming. Right from Halloween to Thanksgiving to Black Friday to Cyber Monday to Christmas to New Year's Eve to New Year's to Valentine's to St. Patrick's Day. That's what it just happened not too long ago. Now we're about to get into Easter. So from that August, it's like a snowball effect, right? So if I'm running 80% paid, it means that there are more people online in the third quarter of the year than in the first and the second quarter. Because we're running ads, yes, but how many people are actively online? I said today 46.1 billion people search on the World Wide Web daily. Thank you so much, Debbie. Appreciate you. Glad to have you as well, Tracy, Richard, Alina. Just so you guys come in. I didn't get to acknowledge you guys when you guys came in. Reggie, good to have you here as well. So that 20% organic, 80% paid is important. Then the last quarter, this is when you like kind of like flip the script. You like, and you're like, okay, 1% organic, 99% paid. That's what I would do because that 1%, I'm tweaking, I'm updating articles. I might write one or two, but I'm not going to write as much as I did because I've already answered all the questions. Sometimes when you answer all the questions, you don't want to over answer a question. You want to answer a question in its most concise format that is understandable, is legible, and it's actionable. So that 1% is just tweaking, 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 and then 99% is full blast. That's how I would do a 12-month planner. I don't know what you guys would say in the chat, but please, I would love to hear your thoughts too. What do you think, Pierre? Would you do the same? Would you do differently? I know you've said how you're going to do it, but how would you see things when it comes to the competitive landscape?
I like the idea of the planner. And I'll be honest, at my end, a lot of times when I've done campaigns or anything with search, I usually have been a little bit more focused on what the client is trying to get out more than the competitor, in all honesty. But I do think when you get into when you get I think when you get into ads where it's very extensive, and I think when you get very extensive on the number of products and what you're trying to get done, that I think you are almost forced by default into having some sort of need to organize it, and you may have to really look at where competitors are, if you know that you're trying to have a search and a paid campaign that's really trying to position a product or service for the long term. Those sort of things you do need to have some sort of organization about to kind of pull it off, because otherwise what happens is that you end up with, running these efforts, but you have no idea where you are or what is that you don't have an idea what the benchmark is, basically, and how well you're doing against that benchmark. And I'll say this real quickly too. I think the overall idea of having some sort of scheduler or some sort of way to organize or manage your campaigns is probably going to be even more important as AI becomes a larger influence as a starting point for search. We're seeing bits and pieces of that now. I know propensity, that the basic can access keywords from a site. Claude, which just recently introduced the whole idea of having search appear within its results. And be honest, this is a whole different conversation, basically. But the short of it is that those sort of things are going to have the same impact as Amazon was going to have, as searching on Amazon was going to have to Google as well. They're just kind of eating into things a little bit. It doesn't mean, it doesn't mean throw the baby out with the bathwater immediately. It doesn't mean you throw out your entire search pattern, but be ready for the idea that, as these different sources come up, the way that you plan your search may start to alter bit by bit. So I would say, definitely during this year, start, make it, follow what Favor says, and then I would say as a follow up, even on top of that, look at how frequently you're checking. It shouldn't be a daily thing. I think you don't get anything from daily metrics in that sense, unless you're on a campaign where you are pressured. But if you can do something, every month or two, take a look and see how your search is evolving and seeing if there's any new search words coming up in, say, Google Search Console. Maybe there's something that maybe your pages are coming up for something a little different than what you've seen before. Those sort of things, I think you need to start paying attention to as the year evolves. So I hope that helps. Favor.
That does. Thank you. Thank you. That was spot on. Yeah, I feel like we've definitely beaten this thing down. I think we've definitely had something that you can use now, because it's just understanding where you are and where you want to be, and then deciding how you want to take that on based on who you want to connect with and where you want to stay connected as well. So thank you so much for that, Pierre, and welcome back, Juliana. This has been a great room. We've talked about so much, and we want to have last thoughts, last talks before we go. Juliana, anything you'd like to say?
Well, since I had to disappear to take a client call, so I thought I'd come back in here. So I hope all of you enjoying the room and took a lot of. I made some notes. And the key is, having worked with Favor for 3 to 4 years now, I know the difference. My ad budget is nearly zero. And mostly is because of all the SEO work. So even if you're going to run an ad, with my little brain of SEO, I know nothing about marketing. I'm a tax expert. I'll do everything around taxes, but I don't know anything about marketing. But by hanging out with Favor, I've learned a lot, and through his guidance, I'm able to make sure I get a lot of phone calls, and I still getting phone calls throughout tax season, unlike my fellow CPAs. So whatever industry that you are in, make sure that you are doing more than your competitors. And the key in everything, and from all across my clients, I see who is spending a lot of money on Google Ads and still not getting the results. But the ones who are doing SEO work, I see the numbers in the revenues. So that's just my small testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliana. Speaking of testimony, that's just the perfect way to end this room, because You said something about zero, and we were talking about percentages before you came in the room. That means you didn't hear what I was even talking about when I talked about 1% and you said zero, because it's true. You don't need to run ads to make sales. Like our business, Work and Play Entertainment, we don't run ads at all. We run ads for clients, but we don't run ads because we do it organically and we help you get it organically too. So when you now run ads, eventually you're retargeting at a lower price point because you've been able to focus on the result. We know when they say cost per result, you should first focus on the organic result before the paid result, because the organic result will give you a much lower cost per result because the results are more. The more results you have, the less you have to pay for. It's just makes sense, and it also makes sense. So this has been a great room. Thank you, Tracy. Appreciate you for that. Saying SEO is a long game. It definitely is. And it just takes a while, but you got to do it the right way to get the results at the right time. You don't plant seeds on wrong soil expecting it to grow in 5, 10 years. There has to be a right pathway to be done so that you can actually see the success of your investment, right? It's an investment, it's not an expense. That's what I always say about SEO, because the more you keep spending money, the more you keep making money, but differently when you look at your profit margins.
Favor, I just want to say one thing is irrelevant. It has nothing to do with this room. But when you mentioned seeds, my ears perked up because I've been saving all my seeds and now I'm growing an apple tree in my living room with a date palm in my living room. So save all your seeds because eventually none of the foods that we're going to buy in the store is going to have seeds in them. So this is irrelevant. It has nothing to do with this, but save your seeds. 2 cents.
I love that. I love that. Those 2 cents are priceless. Because that's health. Health is wealth. You need to know what you're putting into your system. So it's big. Wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been a great room. If you're listening to this replay, I hope you learned something new. Please take action. Don't just sit there and be like, okay, we have the notes. Take those notes and turn those notes into action points that you can look back and be thankful that you started. Because if those notes are still on your notepad a year from now and you didn't do anything, guess what? It's still going to be there looking at you, looking at it. So you want to look at something else outside what you've been looking at so you can appreciate the thought process you went through before. And that's why we're here to tell you more about SEO and organic versus paid advertising strategies for small businesses. So thank you so much for listening. It's been a great room. Appreciate you. I'll be here again this week. I don't know when, because things are getting busy. That's why you guys don't see me on Clubhouse a lot. But you can always catch me in the Breakfast with Champions in the morning. I always have a room on Mondays at 7 a.m. Central. I'm always there to contribute as well. So feel free to connect with me here, but also please click the link above. If you want to really get connected, click the link above, click the link in the description, sign up, put your contact information, the right one, the one that you want to receive information from me on. And then that way you can get that information and you get emails directly into your inbox that you don't have to look around and see things. I always make sure that the links are there because things can get really messy. So I want to make sure that you're able to do those things and connect the dots. So I appreciate you all for being today in this room. God bless you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I'm going to see you guys in the Clubhouse streets very soon.